All right, what's going on? Welcome, hour number 3. Appreciate you guys with us today. Prater in the ballgame, 208-424-9300. I bet our guest, he doesn't get calls from radio shows where Dan Quinn went to college or any other member of that staff, but our man Donovan Lewis, who joins us right now, can always expect us to give him that old Kellen Cowboy update when it comes to Boise State. He's with us now. He hosts Norm and D Invasion on Sports Radio 1310, The Ticket in Dallas. A member of our Cumulus family. He's Donovan Lewis. Donovan, my man, welcome back to Boise, dude.
Good talking to you again. Good. Thank you for having me, man. Truly appreciate it.
Heck yeah, man. We always love getting down and talking to you with Kellen and LVE and all this good stuff. We're going to start with Kellen Moore. And, the win versus Tampa Bay looked like they were pretty crisp, looked like they did pretty much whatever they wanted to do. And just the season in general, Donovan, you guys talk about the Cowboys every single day. How would you say Kellen Moore fared as offensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys in 2022? Obviously, season's still going too.
Yeah, you just think of it objectively and you say, okay, when Dak was out, this offense struggled naturally when you have QB1 out, but it did just enough. It did what it had to do to get wins while Dak was out. And then when he came back, this was one of the highest scoring teams in the league, but our recency bias hits us in the face so much that the last thing we saw on the field was a 26-6 absolute debacle against Washington where the offense had like 10 3 and outs. So naturally, everyone was saying if things go poorly in Tampa, then that could cost Kellen Moore's job. And I kind of throw my hands up at times saying, I just don't understand how that can be when the offense is humming. It's really good. It's about execution when it comes to play calling a lot. We're all naturally born offensive coordinators in our minds.
Right.
We can sit on our couch and call a perfect game.
Yep.
And, okay, well, he didn't do this and trick plays and all that. It's almost like everyone gives every excuse to see if they can try to move on from Kellen Moore. And then he turns around on Wild Card Monday, where every eyeball in the world is watching football, and puts together probably one of the better game plans you will ever see the Cowboys put out there, as far as play action and different types of lineups. And I noticed one time where the Cowboys had 4 wides and 1 tight end on the field, and that is never a staple of a Kellen Moore offense. He always has a running back on the field at all times, and he was throwing everything out against Tampa Bay in that defense because I don't know if he felt like he was coaching for his job, but I think he knew he had to put together a really good game plan in order to say, okay, if things don't go the way that they wanted to, then he wouldn't be out of a job. So, hey, kudos to him. If you want to talk about how poorly some of those games have gone this season, okay. But in the games that they lost to Jacksonville and they scored in the 30s.
Yep.
They lost to Green Bay and they had a 2-touchdown lead. How was that on the offense? So to answer your question, I think he did a really good job this year. So much so that even if they lose against San Francisco, I do believe you can say, let's run this thing back with this coaching staff and these players and still expect some good results next year also.
All right, Donovan, it feels like, if Kellen Moore walked on water, it feels like Cowboy fans would get on Twitter and say, see, I told you can't swim. I told you.
Right.
Do you think it all, and obviously this run, if you can go into San Francisco, which would be a monster game, shades of 1992 in the NFC Championship game there. Do you think it could get better between Kellen and this Cowboy fan base, or do you think they're always just going to pick on him? Anything short, I guess, of a Super Bowl championship. Do you think he's swaying some of those people on Twitter at all, or maybe it doesn't even matter, huh?
Yeah, I don't think he's swaying everyone because if they lose against San Francisco, and I think we all truly believe that right now San Francisco is a better team, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with losing a playoff game on the road against a better team. But someone has to be the scapegoat, right? You can blame Dak and this offense all you want, but they can't fire players. They especially can't fire Dak with what his contract is like. Mike McCarthy, could you get rid of him? Okay, but I think if he goes, a new coach may bring someone new in anyway. So you have to point the finger at someone. And it just seems like Kellen Moore is the easy target because, hey, offensive coordinators. But one thing you said, and I've talked about this a lot on our show, is that when you just said nothing short of a Super Bowl championship. And in my mind, I'm always saying, why is that the expectation in Dallas right now? They haven't been to a championship game in like 27 years. So now why all of a sudden everyone's upset because you don't make a Super Bowl run? Everyone should be happy they won this playoff game against Tampa. Let's start there. And let's start with being competitive against San Francisco and maybe getting that win. And then you can start eyeing some Super Bowl expectations. But now, as much as it pains a lot of Cowboy fans to hear this, it's not, you're not that team that says it's Super Bowl or we're disappointed. That's not how it's been.
Wow.
That's not like how life has been since the early 90s here in Dallas.
We're talking to Donovan Lewis, 1310 Sports Radio, The Ticket in Dallas. Donovan, we appreciate you coming on, talking a little Kellen Moore and Leighton Vander Esch. Let's keep this Kellen Moore conversation going. I kind of got a two-part question. I'll just hit the first part with you. When Kellen Moore is on, like he was this past week, and other owners in the NFL are taking notes and thinking, that's interesting. What does Kellen Moore do very well that stands out for him?
I think he uses or realizes what his advantages are on the field, and he takes advantage of that. I think he loves, and I don't know if it's out of necessity because of the wide receiver core here in Dallas, or just because he feels that it's advantageous to his team, but he loves playing with 1, 2, 3 tight ends on the field. He feels that in that formation, you're going to look at that and think, okay, 2, 3 tight ends, they're going to run, but they throw out of that a lot. So I think he's really good at keeping the defense off balance, especially with his formations. Like I said, he always loves to have a running back on the field, and now he's doing everything with 2 run, not everything, but a lot of things now with both running backs on the field. And then that can keep the defense on his heels. So I think he is really good at using the toys he has in the toy box to build his army and use different formations and try to keep the defense on his heels and keep them kind of rolling backwards a bit so his offense can be at an advantage. But his use of play action against Tampa was, I think, a thing of beauty. And I don't know if it was just because of the execution of Dak, because I don't think I've ever seen him use those play action fakes like he did against Tampa. They use play action, yes, but not to the extent where he's hiding the ball and, taking a couple of dead steps and then going around the corner and scoring a touchdown. We haven't seen that here in Dallas. And I thought he picked the right time to use his, kind of pull his creativity out and say, okay, we're going to do a little something different, which makes me think that game against Washington, when they realized Philadelphia was going to win, they just said, I don't even care anymore. Let's just get out of here and not be hurt. And let's start working on Tampa Bay and putting the game plan together to see if we can get that win.
Donovan Lewis, Sports Radio, The Ticket in Dallas. All right, the flip side of that question is, and you're right, we're all offensive coordinators, and we can all sit there and look and see what's good and what's bad. But in all reality, what are some of the red flags, minor, big, whatever they are, of Kellen Moore? Not so much a game here where he screwed up that play call, but consistent stuff.
Sure. I don't see a lot. I think sometimes they will get. I don't even want to say it's a little too cute. I think that's overused a lot. I think there are times where if we all feel, or if the game plan seems to dictate that he needs to go one way, he'll go the other because he said, if you're expecting this, then I'm going to do this. And I thought that was at the very beginning of the Tampa game, because I think everyone and their mom, who was offensive coordinators also, I think they wanted Dallas to run the ball against Tampa Bay. Hey, establish the run, keep the offense on the sideline, chew up some clock and see if you can get some yards rushing. And then they came out in the first series throwing the ball 3 straight times. And I think sometimes he'll kind of get out of his head saying, they're expecting this, I'm going to do this, instead of saying, hey, if we execute, even if they know what we're doing or what we're trying to do, if we execute properly, then we still can gain some yards and move down the field. So I feel that that's the only maybe little weakness in his game that he's trying to say, oh, okay, you're going to expect me to throw it, but guess what? I'm going to run it 8 straight times to see what you're going to do about it. Instead of saying, we may have the advantage in the passing game, let's just do it. Because if they know it and we're better than them, it doesn't really matter.
Donovan, it feels like last year there was more Kellen Moore head coaching buzz than this year. All we know is that the Panthers have submitted a request to interview him. We don't even know if that request was granted or if Kellen Moore will interview with the Panthers. Do you still think it's on the table or what Kellen might have to do. He obviously wants to be a head coach. He's said that before. Sure. Is this the year? Do you think it's coming down the road? I mean, has he missed his window? Where are you on that, Donovan Lewis?
I feel that his window was maybe even a couple of years ago. I thought Kellen Moore being a head coach lost some steam the last couple of years. When he first came on the scene as offensive coordinator, I thought his name was heavy. And a lot of people around here thought that you were just going to have him for a couple of years, that he was head coaching material. I know Troy Aikman thought that a lot, and he would say that a ton doing Cowboy games. I think this guy is going to be a head coach, and you know how that can gain a little steam. It feels like to me that he's getting the, I don't want to say courtesy, because I think that's belittling Kellen Moore. I think in a few years, I think he'll be right for a head coaching job. But it only takes one team to believe in you and give you that chance. So it's really hard for me to say that he is just kind of getting the interview and they're just kind of testing the waters. It could be one team that says, hey, that's our guy. I do feel that he'll be back as an offensive coordinator here next year if they don't let him go. I don't know if he'll get a head coaching job this year, but I think he's building quite a resume as far as having a successful offense and getting the most out of his players. And if that's the case, then I think some team will look at that and say, hey, you know what? Maybe this guy can be run our program. He is just not as vocal as some other guys are. They don't show him on the sideline as much as other guys. You know what I'm saying? It seems like he's not as visible as some of the other names that are out there trying to get getting head coaching interviews. But again, like I said, it only takes one team that says, that's my guy, let's give him a shot, and then he'll be out of there. He'll get the call.
Donovan Lewis, Sports Radio, The Ticket in Dallas. I got a quick question for you before we dive into Leighton Vander Esch and his issue, just in terms of the logistics. And, you know, Kellen is so directly tied to Dak Prescott, but we know that Doug Nussmeier, the former Idaho Vandals quarterback, is the quarterback coach. Is it as simple as Nussmeier is developing Dak Monday through Friday and Kellen spends all of his time on scheme? Or how much is Kellen responsible on Monday through Friday in terms of developing Dak Prescott?
I think they all have a hand in it. I do believe one of the best influences for Dak when he was real young and he was drafted, he was the third string. Heck, Kellen Moore was his teammate. Kellen Moore gets hurt. Tony Romo gets hurt. Dak gets elevated to the number one quarterback. And I thought his biggest influence in his development at that time was Mark Sanchez. And I think he said so much himself. And I do feel that everyone is involved as far as, you know, making sure that they're on the right page. And I think he and Kellen Moore talk a lot. And they get together a lot and make sure the game plan is where it needs to be. And his development had a lot to do with Jason Garrett. I don't want to take him out of the equation to say he wasn't involved in that. But I think everyone has a hand in it. You know, Mike McCarthy is a really good offensive mind. He's not calling plays now in Dallas, but I think a lot of people forget that he was the main play caller down there in Green Bay. And I think he had a lot to do with developing Rodgers down there and how Green Bay did their thing on the offensive end. So I think everyone has a hand in what Dak is as a quarterback right now. So I think if Kellen Moore were to leave and go somewhere else, I think that will hurt Dak a bit. I think he goes in there and they confide in each other and talk a lot about what they need to do and what to accomplish out there on the field.
One of our favorite guests, and we're going to keep him a few extra minutes today, Donovan Lewis, host of Norm and D Invasion on 1310 The Ticket in Dallas. We want to get to Leighton Vander Esch, who's not quite on the level of Kellen Moore in Boise, Idaho, but he's pretty darn close, Donovan. And you know, he was on a one-year deal. We thought he played pretty damn well this year, had an excellent playoff game. It feels to me like if the Cowboys want him back, he probably wants to come back. What would that contract look like? Is it time that the two parties you think move on? What do you think the future of Leighton Vander Esch is with the Dallas Cowboys?
If you'd have asked me that after last season, I would have thrown my hands up and said, I have no idea. But he had a prove it, earn it contract this year. And he's done it. He's absolutely done it because this defense missed him when he was gone. The middle of this defense just was not as good as it has been this year when Leighton Vander Esch was there. And he proved it in that wild card game against Tampa. I think he picked the right game to play one of his best games. And if Dallas is going to have any success against San Francisco, it's going to be Leighton Vander Esch manning the middle. dropping back in coverage because they have so many weapons on that side. I think he's proved his worth enough to earn a contract next year and years to come here in Dallas. And I think that is one of the stories that will come out of this year, saying, man, he signed a 1-year deal for like $3 million. That's a first-round draft pick. It just felt weird that no one else was biting. We thought he was absolutely gone after this year because we thought some team would try to pluck him with the way he played the first couple of years. You know, injuries happen. But if the Cowboys don't sign him, I promise you someone else will, because I do feel that he has definitely earned the right to get a 2, 3, 4-year contract somewhere to play ball. He's been really, really good this year, and they really missed him when he was gone.
Niners, Cowboys, just something special about the NFL and the playoffs when those two teams are playing. They played last year. They'll play this weekend. Donovan, we always appreciate your time, man. You do such a good job down there in Dallas. Keep it up, and obviously we'll be in touch sooner or later for something regarding Boise State, and hopefully we keep that connection going. We were actually talking a couple days ago, what if, Boise State didn't have any ties anymore with the Cowboys? That'd be weird for us up here. We rely on you, man.
It'd be weird for us too, right? Yeah.
Appreciate you, man. Good stuff.
Hey, anytime. Thank you, guys.
Good stuff with Donovan Lewis there, Prater. We didn't have time to get to Tank, but it looks like Tank's contract, he will be back. There's too much dead cap money. I think it's $35 million in dead money for Dallas to release DeMarcus Lawrence. Max Rice's night. What did you make of it? Were you there? Why was it different? What made it special? Let's open up the hotline. 208-424-9300. Max Rice, last night, career high. You saw it, you watched it, you lived it. What do you think about it? Give us a call. Prater on the Ballgame, Sports Radio, The Ticket.
From the Beacon